First, thanks for coming, and I would also thank the organizer for setting up this conference and inviting me in Budapest. I will go straight to the content and introduce it using the, oh, there's a problem. No. Okay. Do we have any Prezi expert in the room? Just kidding. Okay, I heard that the security team is here too. Are you here? No? Okay, anyway. Okay, here we go. So I will start with classic 5 Ws. It's okay, it will be okay now. So, who? I'm Nicolas Gregoire. My Twitter handle is agari_fr. What is the topic? It's hunting top bounties, which is legally hacking and trying to maximize the payout. Where? I don't think it's really relevant to the conversation, but if you are interested, I usually hack from this location, and we are somewhere here. But that's probably not relevant. Why? First, I did a stupid bet with my wife. Never bet with your wife. I bet that I would be able to pay for some winter family for the whole family using bug bounties. It works well. Second point, it's fun and it's always good to receive some large amount of money. It will build your skills, I mean both knowledge and practice. For example, you could use bug bounties to practice technology you don't want to set up at home. For example, Facebook is running this kind of technology, so why not hacking Facebook instead of starting a VM in your lab? And networking, I mean building relationships with security team. It's a good way to maybe generate some future income for my own company, which is doing penetration testing and everything. And when I started exactly 1 year ago, and I'm doing this kind of stuff only during my free time, and I will later define what is free time in this specific context. A few misconceptions. Or some question I have quite often, which are, okay, you are doing bug bounties and you have a company, so maybe your company is not working well. Thanks for asking. The company is working well, it's just a hobby. The money do not go to the company, but to my own pockets. It's totally separated. Second question, so you have a bug bounty, you have a company, you are doing bug bounties, do you still have a family? Yes, I spent on 1 year, I spent less than 20 days doing bug bounties, so it's not a lot of time, it's less than 2 days per month, and the family is profiting of the money too, so we are going in holidays and everything is okay with that. And the third point is, okay, you make so much money in 20 days, so maybe you earn like $500 million per year. No, sorry. It would be cool, but this is not the situation. And even if I work full-time on bug bounties, I don't think I can reproduce this kind of payouts on average. Oh, I seriously have a problem with my presentation. Okay, okay, whatever. So when playing bug bounties, I define my own rules. So the first 3 ones are related to my position regarding bug bounties, and the 3 next ones are regarding to dealing with vulnerabilities. So first, do not expect any money, because your bug can be classified as one fix, or could be out of scope, or whatever reason, the bug bounty can stop tomorrow and you are still working on a bug, so do not expect anything. Keep it fun. I mean, keep it fun is not do only simple thing, because the opposite of fun is not hard, the opposite of fun is boring. And so if it's boring, change your target, change everything, go to a party, do something else. Don't unpack my daily life. That means I will not refuse to do something because, for example, Twitter is launching its bug bounty program right now. I will not drop everything just to participate. And regarding vulnerabilities, try to actively avoid duplicates, because there's no point in working on something for being the second one. I mean, there's only one winner, which is the first one. Strictly respect the bounty rules. First, I don't want to go to jail. Then I prefer to have some money for my bugs. And given I'm doing professional pen testing for 15 years, I'm quite used to respect the scope and everything. So, and in the same vein, write quality reports because it's skills needed by professional penetration testers, and it will be very well received by the security team. So it's always a good point to write a very good report. I heard a lot of negative things on the average level of people participating to bug bounties. So this is the shotgun approach. It worked for CSRF vulnerabilities too. So send like 100 reports and hope that one of them will be considered as valid. This is not a very professional approach. Second point, the HTTP method options. I already saw some reports like options is working on your website. Maybe you should give me a bounty and remove this feature. This is stupid, but if you know how options work, you can still find some interesting things. For example, WADL is like WSDL, but for applications. And if you request, for example, this is a Jersey API, you just send an option request and you get the full description of the API. So it's cool. And if you are curious, you can see the URL here, and it's in scope of a bug bounty, so you can try by yourself. Okay, so let's go to the result, I mean bugs, and later I will give a few advices. So the first program I participated in is the Dutch Telecom one. So the first particularity is that most of the content is in German, of course. For me, it's a problem. I do not speak German outside of Ich liebe dich, for example, but it's not useful in penetration testing. I decided to apply typical OWASP top 10 methodology, but limited to public attack surface because I don't want to set up accounts. I can't even read if this is a sign up or sign in button. So I totally remove account creation and everything authenticated from the scope. This is funny. They pay for duplicates. They pay 50 euros per duplicate, so you can easily cheat the program. Just find one vulnerability, create 10 email address, and you get 500 euros. But I would not cheat for 500 euros, and you can totally destroy your online reputation, which is if you are doing penetration testing, your most valuable asset. So do not cheat during anything in general. I found 9 XSS, so 6 of them were duplicates, so 6 multiplied by 50 euros, and 3 non-duplicates, mainly in Flash files. And regarding SQL injection, I found an application who was catching exceptions and generating custom error messages. Friendly error messages for German people means that error messages are in German. And luckily, one of the messages includes this string, this large number, which looks like an error code or something. But I have no idea of what is the meaning of 21472, etc. So let's ask Google. And you will find that the 3 top results are related to Microsoft SQL Server, Microsoft SQL Server, and Microsoft SQL Server. So probably you have a syntax error and the backend is Microsoft SQL Server. So just feed the URL to SQL map and ask for the banner, and it works. So it was a blind SQL injection, so it was a little bit slow. And luckily, that wasn't a duplicate. So I earned 1,000 euros on this bug. But the question is, how a very simple SQL injection can be missed. I think that the fact that exceptions were caught, you have never any HTTP 500 error code, only 200. Custom error messages, you have no way to grab for example, the string error or SQL Server or SQL itself, and the German language is for me, frightening. So it could be part of the reasons. I will pick a lot of German people. I have quite a lot of German friends, so that's funny. Two of my bugs were reported as out of scope. One of them is a JSF directory transversal, so in Java server faces. And the second one is unprotected view state. The answer was that this kind of complex bugs were out of scope because they were limited to like XSS and SQL injection, etc. I would say that's typically German. So let's resume the situation. Low payouts, high number of duplicates, the language, and most of my, the cooler bugs are out of scope. So that's not a bug bounty in which I will spend more time. Let's go to Prezi and with a different approach, which is XML, SSRF mainly. So this is an online editor for Prezi, a previous version. Okay, if you press the save button here and intercept the traffic using burp, you will see this kind of stuff. So it's a lot of parameters, a lot of cookies. A lot of cookies and one single parameter, which is a post one, and which looks very interesting because the name of the parameter is b64 zipped, b64 underscore zipped underscore XML underscore content. So maybe I could suppose that's XML data, which is first zipped and then encoded as base64. That's skills. Okay, as you can notice, if you are used to using a burp suite, there's a non-default tab here, which is Prezi XML, and which is because of an extension I developed, and which will show you the XML data totally decoded and ready for manipulation. So you can manipulate it, press send the request, and everything is done transparently. So you can be very fast in your hacking testing. Maybe you are aware that I found quite a lot of XML vulnerabilities in a lot of software, but I didn't find any of them in the Prezi data layer, so it was a shame for me, and kudos to them. But my logic is that, okay, if you can't go through the data layer, why not try to go to the business logic layer? And it happens that if you try to insert a symbol or shape like this small star here, you will add to your XML document a node, which is an object node, and which include here a URL, okay, which is the location of the small yellow star I just inserted in the document. Okay, so I can insert arbitrary URL in the XML document. So if I can instruct something server-side to retrieve this content, then I have something like SSRF vulnerability. So maybe save as PDF could be enough, but everything is done client-side using the Alive PDF library, so there's absolutely no interaction between Prezi servers and the content, the little yellow star. So that's a problem. But okay, PDF export is not working for me. Let's try a portable export. And okay, this is for taking care of my time. Okay. Sorry, basic tricks. So if you send to portable Prezi, you will get a zip archive which is hosted on Amazon S3. So it's clearly server-side, so you have server-side processing. And if you look to what is happening, in fact, here I'm requesting an export as zip. Then I'm polling the job list in order to get a job ID. And then I'm polling the job ID itself until I get a success response and the URL pointing to the zip archive. Okay, so why not trying etc password as a URL? This is a basic dumbest trick available, and it works. So the question is, why is it still working? I think that the fact that the content was encoded and zipped and everything, means that automatic tools have no chance to find it, and maybe testers are too lazy to develop an extensions. So this bug was near free for everybody, okay, for developing a burp extension. Then Prezi decided to put some countermeasures in place and forbid the file URL. So HTTP is still available, of course. And this is a short, very short description on how autoscaling is working in Amazon EC2 and OpenStack. So autoscaling is starting VM depending on the workload. So when the workload is high enough, you start a new VM, the VM will boot, download a shell script from its own metadata server, which is, as you can see, a multicast IP address, and then the script is executed and everything goes fine. Okay, so let's try to replace the URL with the user data script, which is located on the metadata server, and then what we get is a chef compromise. The question is, what is a chef compromise? So it could be related to South Park, or it could not be related to South Park, and it's not. So Chef is a tool used to streamline and configure a huge quantity of servers. And in the shell script, you have everything needed for creating 3 very interesting files, which are everything needed to access the Chef account of Prezi and downloading source code, configuration, and etc. And you can compromise a large part of the online infrastructure using these credentials. So Prezi decided to do a few things, defense in depth. The reward was 2,000 euros. And this is interesting. Regarding HTTP requests, they are now detecting redirects and applying a blacklist on the final URL. But when I heard blacklist, I heard bypass. So I kindly asked for the code to the Prezi security team, and they sent me the code. So that's cool. They are sending me the call of the blacklist. And the blacklist, in fact, is limited to calling IP type here, which is a function of IPY, which is a Python library for dealing with IP address. And this is code in IPY. So there's 2 interesting parts. Here you will notice that we have some fallback to public. So this is a non-safe fallback, okay? If we have a problem, we will fall back to public. And you have some Python magic here, but I prefer to show the result itself. So this is my own code. It's very, very basic. Take the loopback IP address, convert it in integer, convert it in hexadecimal, convert it in octal format. All of these formats are supported by curl, the well-known HTTP request library. And you get this kind of output. So the 3 first ones are considered as private. The 4th one will trigger an exception in IPY. So depending on how your code is structured, it could be a vulnerability by itself. And the 3rd one is considered as public because of the leading 0. So given the defense in depth deployed by Prezi, this bug has nearly no impact, but they were kind enough for offering 500 euros. So that's cool. In fact, they offer that money not for the consequences of the bug, but for the fact that it reminds them that they should pen test every library they insert in their application. So this is a security library, and they felt that it would be safe to use it without any dedicated analysis, which was not. Okay, that's all for Prezi. Let's go to Yahoo. So Yahoo, I spent all of my time on the YQL service. It's the only services I tested in Yahoo. And YQL allow you to using secret syntax for getting data from Yahoo. So you can access the Yahoo Mail, you can access the Yahoo search engine, and you can do some processing like XML processing, XSLT processing. Okay, so it looks very interesting to me. And we will try to something not too complicated. So this is some basic XXC vulnerabilities, so I will not go in details in what is XXC. We had a cool talk this morning related to XXC. And this, that's what it looks in Yahoo pipes. So as you can see, this is a etc password file from one of the processing backend from Yahoo. And so that's cool. Something a little bit harder. So let's go to blind XXC. So when Yahoo decided to patch the previous vulnerabilities, they forgot to remove the dynamic DTD features. And if you have dynamic DTD, you can still do blind XXC and out-of-band data exfiltration. So this document is, sorry. This document is near empty. It's only a DTD. And this is the mechanic. So you have a DTD which call a file which is on your own server, which will load etc password in YOLO, and will define a URL using YOLO as part of the content. And then you have a custom FTP server listening on your side, and you receive the etc password file inside FTP request. So that's cool. The FTP, excuse me, spelling in French. The FTP URL handler is needed if you are using Java 1.7 or newer. So you can't use HTTP anymore, but FTP still works very well. The second trick was using XSLT document. So this function, is designed to read the XML file and present its content. So just call a XML file, for example, the server.xml from Tomcat, and display it in your result. If there's any XML hacker in the room, I have a bonus question, which is why using the notset function here? So if you have any opinion, I'm glad to hear it after, and maybe I could offer you a cocktail, which are free anyway, tonight. Okay, something a little bit harder. So this is the first public disclosure of this trick. So if you're using a dynamic DTD, most of the people consider that you are, it's mandatory to do out-of-band data exfiltration. I somewhat agree, but maybe we can add something else and not be limited anymore to out-of-band exfiltration. So we have an unparsed entity URI function which will retrieve the URI of entity defined the DTD and print it. So it's exactly like the classic dynamic DTD trick, but you are defining, it's here, in step 3, you define an unparsed entity. Its URI is based on the file you stole, and then your XLT function will be called and display the URI, which is in fact the content of the file you requested before. And okay, this is how it works. Okay, so regarding money, this is surprising. I got more money for the basic XXC vulnerabilities than for the advanced one. I think that Yahoo spent too much money in the first months of the bug bounties, and maybe that management say, okay, let's divide the amount by 2, for example. Okay, so I would not play with Yahoo now. They are very slow, and the payouts are going down very quickly. Okay, this family of bugs, I call it back to 90s because, as you will see, the bug is very, very, very old and very, very simple. And it was the biggest payouts. So if we are looking for SSRF vulnerabilities, we have a problem. The first problem is that we need time to find the vulnerability. The second one is that we may not find anything. So let's abuse an existing feature. As you can see, as previously said, YQL allow to do near arbitrary HTTP requests. So this is exactly what we are looking for. And if we try to request loopback itself, we get an error message which is, okay, you are trying to reach loopback or multicast. This is forbidden. If we try to reach port 22, which is SSH, we will get invalid HTTP destination port. But this is very easy to bypass. You just need to do a HTTP redirect. So you call your own server, your server will respond with a HTTP redirect, and then you will bypass the protection. So what you can see here, I'm calling a URL which is under my control, and the answer is a 302 to loopback, and then loopback is requested, but we get a 404 error code on this URL. Okay, so it works, but we didn't find any interesting content. I believed it was enough for reporting the bug to... Okay. So I have more problems than expected. Anyway. Okay, so now that I know how to reach localhost, I can use this command to produce a list of ports, of TCP ports, sorted by the probability that they are opened. So this is very cool. And if I scan the loopback interface, I found a bunch of services. So you have the port numbers on the left. So this is SMTP, SSH. A web server, SSH again, Squid, and blah, 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 and some homemade services and everything. I believe it was enough to submit as a bug, but the answer of Yahoo was to close the ticket as one fix and to say me that it is working as designed. Okay, so I can reach your loopback interface from the outside, but this is as designed. I wasn't very happy with this feedback. So I decided to consider that this is in scope for the bounty. If the feature is working as designed, they can't blame me for accessing these services. So, do you agree? Yeah. Thanks. So we have like 10 services, and maybe one of them is the key of the kingdom. So, the technique is very basic. Try to get lucky. And the only way I know to get lucky is spending time on the problem. So after a lot of testing, I realized that port 9466 was sending back an error message. Like this is the error message. And as you can see, it's a SOAP header, so it's probably a web service. And there's one very specific bit of information, which is here. This is the definition of a private namespace, and the name of the namespace is Ymon. Ymon could be Y like Yahoo, Mon like monitoring, maybe. But I have no idea. So let's try to get lucky. Maybe search for Ymon and WSDL in Google, and the first two results include some private Yahoo URL. Okay, that's starting to get lucky. Okay, more lucky. Access one of the posts, and you will find that the person posted the full WSDL when asking for help. So, of course, download the WSDL, open it in an XML editor, and you will find that we have a bunch of interesting operations, and one of them is exec. Getting lucky. And this is an internal services from Yahoo, and this is exactly the same port that I was targeting. So it seems that everything matched. So it looks very promising. But in fact, the exec method is limited to this directory, home/libexec, and I have no idea what is stored in this directory. Dot sequences will not work. So I was like stuck in this directory. And the solution is, of course, brute force. So you are doing it too. So after some hours of brute forcing, I found there's a directory called Nagios, and inside this directory, there's every default plugin from Nagios. So the job now is to find a remote code execution in a Nagios plugin. And you have two sorts of plugins, binaries, which is not my cup of tea, and scripts, script in Bash. Okay, I love it. Recent versions of Bash are doing syntactic analysis before replacing variables. That's what in the SQL world we are calling prepared statements. Okay, so the old trick of using a comma, for example, do not work anymore in modern Bash versions. So in the checklog plugin, you have this very interesting line, which is cut from a source file you control to a target file you control. As said previously, using semicolon will not work because you will have an error message like file foo, comma, ID, comma, bar, not found. But you can still use dev TCP, your own IP address, and send the content of the etc directory to your own server. And doing that, you will notice that it includes the etc shadow file. So we are running as root. Okay, what else can we do? Maybe we can copy Bash to the libexec directory, of course. But no, it will not work because it's created without execution privilege. So I can do the copy, but I can't execute the copied Bash. It's a pity. But maybe that if we overwrite an existing script, which already has the execute bit, then it will work. The question is, I do not want to break the production network from Yahoo, because maybe I will not earn anything. So I decided to focus on check-NT, because everything I saw internally was Linux machines. So I overwrite the check-NT plugin with bin bash, and it works very well. So I totally compromise the proxy servers from Yahoo. And this is the final proof of concept. So I'm using a URL which is on my own server. So this is, if you call this URL, you will be redirected to localhost port 9466. So you can use it yourself. And I will send this XML data and call my Nagios plugin -c, and here the bash, shell command I want to execute. So this is $15,000. So thank you, Yahoo. And let me remind that they've previously closed the bug as one fix. Thank you. Okay, fun fact. Given I have absolutely no trust in the skill level of Yahoo security team, I decide to copy and to infect, this is copying bash to libexec Nagios, for the full farm of proxies, because I was sure that my repro will work for the first time. So I can say there's 10 outbound proxy, and I backdoored each of them. Sorry. If I had trust with the security team, I would not do that, but they closed the previous one as one fix, so they started. Okay, so even if the exploitation phase was a little bit complex, like 5 steps, the vulnerability is very simple. It's simply open proxies, but open outbound proxies. If you are picky, you even have a CW number, like 441, but nobody cares. Okay, so this is a cool bug, and it seems that nobody is thinking about outbound proxies. So maybe we can find exactly the same bug in somewhere else, still in scope of Bounty, and yeah, maybe. So what we need is server-side access to arbitrary URL, outbound proxy, and the high level of control of on the request. And I noticed that Facebook just bought parse.com, which is code hosting, how to define. In fact, they are for developers, and they allow developers to put JavaScript code, which is executed server-side. So it seems it's enough for me. When I first interact with their service, I noticed that Node.js is mandatory, so I had to develop in JavaScript, which was the first time ever. I mean, outside of XSS payloads. I wrote a port scanner in Node.js, and I found that every private IP space is forbidden, that ports under privileged ports are forbidden, expect 80 and 40 and HTTPS 1, and redirects are correctly handled. But two remaining targets exist. First, the loopback, which was forgotten, and given their network design, they have internal servers which have public IP addresses. So they are behind the firewall, but they have public IP addresses, so we can reach them. So my strategy is quite simple, a full scan of loopback in order to find ports used by default by Facebook, and then scan common DNS name like blabla.parse.com with the result from localhost and the top 200 ports from Nmap. And if I find an IP with an open port, I do a full scan. Why scanning using DNS name? Because everything is cloud hosted, and if I'm scanning by IP address, there's a very high probability that I will go out of scope. So I was limited to DNS. This is the result. I was able to reach v8proxy.parse.com, wiki.parse.com, noc.parse.com, and build. So noc and build are critical servers, of course. And I was to reach a few services like a Redis database, a MySQL database, a Go debugger. Why? I don't know. Jenkins, HA, proxy, and plenty of stuff. Oh, this is what it looks like. So this is how to access the Redis server. So this is the URI of the Redis database, and this is some base64 data which is decoded server side and sent to the Redis server, which is running version 2.6.0. This is a proxy I developed. So in fact, it's reaching internal services and presenting the content in my browser, so I can browse internal website from the outside. This is quite cool, and it's allowed to go very fast in assessing which service is, what's the function of this or that service. So this is Monit, and it's running on V8 proxy 05. So I was not able to execute code on any parse or Facebook server. I spent like 3 days on Redis. No remote code execution, but enough for writing a blog post. I reported the bug 2 weeks too early for shell shock, which was a very clear way to compromise noc.parse.com. So I was totally relying on the analysis by the Facebook team. But I heard some very good feedback, so I was not too afraid of sending without a remote code execution. And they agree with my analysis, and the reward was 20,000 euros. So this is the biggest payout I ever had. And as you can see, the same bug, so on Yahoo and on Facebook, it's 35,000 euros for outbound open proxies. This is incredible. I mean, in my opinion, it's 2 days of work. And okay, I have more content like related to Rosetta Flash or doing some SSRF attack on Stripe.com, but I probably don't have the time. Yes. Okay, so I will try to give some pieces of advice. So the first one is write good reports. I already stated that in the introduction, but this is some feedback from Prezi and from Yahoo. They are very, very, very well appreciated, I mean, by security team, so it worth the effort. And it's a skill you need to have if you plan to do anything professional like penetration testing. So invest in your report and write maybe a correct English or not too bad, add screenshot, I mean, try to do something easy to understand. Use your influence, so maybe it's cheating, but I was really afraid that Yahoo will once again close my bug I won't fix, so I decided to send a tweet So this is a public tweet. This is not a PM. Like copy to Yahoo Security and HackerOne with the ID of the ticket, so 4170, and a clear explanation of the impact, remote root execution. The goal is to go from the bottom of the to-do list to the top. And it works. So the day after I sent this tweet, my bug was worked on by the Yahoo security team. And yes, another trick. I try to use a URL which are pinging back to my own servers. So when they are reproducing the bug, I know where they are doing it. Okay, this is very important. Be opportunistic if compliant with your oh, that's a typo. Sorry. So what does it mean? For example, you are using Burp and you crawl every website which is in scope for bug bounty, or you paid an intern for doing that. And if a vulnerability appears in a specific techno, you just have to search in your logs for an application running this technology, and maybe you can have a vulnerability in minutes. This works, for example, for the JSON-P injection bugs. I reported some of them to Yahoo, to Yandex. If you are in XXS, for example, my friend Mario Eiderish published a lot of bypass. So if you have the information early enough, you can report bugs. Twitter launched its program a few weeks ago, and I know for sure that some people dropped everything to rush the computer and find bugs. And it happens again last week with Microsoft starting the Office 365 bounty. But I'm not, it's not compliant with my own rules, which do not impact my daily life, so I can't do that. This is cool. One guy is tracking acquisitions by Facebook in a spreadsheet. And 4 months after the acquisitions, new services are in scope. So every 4 months after an acquisition, the guy gets a warning from its agenda, like, oh, don't forget to pound this company today. And it works well because it's always the first one, 4 months after everybody forgot that they bought this or that company. And for example, this guy earned 35,000 euros on Oculus, which is a startup bought by Facebook recently. Okay, look around. Maybe there's plenty of people participating to bug bounty, plenty of people doing cool research. So this is an extract of the people I follow on Twitter, and that I consider they have a lot of value, which is helpful for me when doing penetration testing or bug hunting. And this is my final word. Don't forget to have fun. It should be a hobby, and it should be fun. And thanks for listening.